Hi everyone, this is Anna and welcome back to Anna's Take with the Twist. Today we're going to talk about the different strategies that movie theaters are using to get us to fill their seats in any way that they can, and if those strategies are actually working. But before I start this video, I just want to say that today is Friday, January 24th, 2025, and the fires in California are still burning. The first fire was on Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. It quickly went to 4 fires. And now we have additional 5, so a total of 9 fires in California right now on February 24th, 2025. I'm really hoping this will come to an end very soon. I'm not sure what else is happening in California right now. However, I will say that the fires in California have prompted me to purchase a book that I will be talking about in my next video. And this video actually prompted me to purchase a book. So, in the last few years, everyone knows that movie theaters have suffered a lot. It was during the pandemic that the seating was very limited for movie theaters. At the same time, people were very afraid to go out to the movies. And a lot of movies that were slated or were supposed to be released for certain times during the pandemic just weren't. So sometimes they were pushed, meaning they were going from like April 2020 to say April 2021, sometimes April 2022, just for an example, or they went to streaming. So because of all those things, a lot of people were actually staying at home a lot more, of course, during the pandemic. And since the pandemic, people have, I think, stayed at home even more, kind of like changed like their spending habits from going to the movies to pay for streaming. So movie theaters have really needed to get creative. In the one video that I made called Imagine That, I was really just focusing on Imagine Cinemas and the different things that they were doing to increase their revenue streams. If you haven't seen that video or you want to see it again, there's a description below. There's a link in the description below. Sorry about that. The difference between a movie theater and a cinema is basically geography. So the preferred spelling for United States is movie theater. However, preferred spelling for Canada and most English-speaking countries is cinema. And cinema is short form for cinematography in French, and that was created by the Lumiere brothers in 1890. So I've been trying to get to see a movie for the last couple of weeks and it hasn't just been working out for me. For whatever reason, it is not playing in one of the 3 movie theaters that is closest to me. I do live in downtown Toronto, so I can walk to the Cineplex on Yonge and Dundas in less than 15 minutes. And there are 2 Imagine Cinemas I can walk to in less than 25 minutes. So the movie that I want to see is available at Cineplex Varsity, and that's a 40-minute walk. I have walked there before, and movie theaters are warm and they're dark, and so I have actually just felt my chin bouncing off my chest, wondering how long I dozed off during the one movie. And luckily I could actually borrow that movie from the library. Not every movie that goes to the movie theater is actually put on DVD. Most movies are just, right to streaming after that. So I will say that I was very fortunate. The next time I went to go see a movie at that movie theater, instead of walking the 40 minutes, I took transit there and I walked home. And I usually try to go on Tuesdays. It's the cheapest day of the week. At the same time, the other part of that is that, I always bypass the concessions. However, I will say that right now, Cineplex Varsity does have $5 Tuesdays for like a basic movie, meaning if you're seeing a VIP, you might have to pay more than $5 for any movie on Tuesdays. And they have small popcorn for $5. So that's one way of getting people into the movie theater. So as soon as I finished watching the movie at Cineplex Varsity, because it is in like an upscale part of town, it's in Yorkville, a lot of upscale shops there, a lot of designer shopping. So designer stores like, for example, Chanel, Tiffany's, Hugo Boss, Hermes, and those are just some examples. And those stores are located on a part of Toronto called, a part of Bloor Street called Mink Mile. So Mink Mile is on Bloor Street between Yonge Street, and if you go west from Yonge to Avenue Road, that's Mink Mile. And so people are just kind of like, well, Canada uses the metric system. Why would it be called Mink Mile? Well, up until April 1st, 1975, Canada was actually used the imperial system. So up until then, we used feet, inches, miles, and pounds. And then after April 1st, 1975, for the first time, we went from Fahrenheit, which is a measurement of the actual temperature, to Celsius, which is the metric measurement. So that was introduced by Pierre Elliott Trudeau on April 1st, 1975. And Yorkville has been upscale prior to that. So, a very, very long time. If I get to the movies earlier, when I go to Cineplex Varsity, I will stop over at the Indigo because books are my element and books are always the same price. However, I do feel limited when I have to go up to Varsity because it's out of my way. It takes up a little bit more of my time. And I do feel out of my element because it is very, very upscale. People tend to walk slower. They talk slower. They don't have gestures. So as soon as the movie's over, like I said, I just basically head over to Yonge and Dundas Square. And then I stand there at the Eaton Center. I look over and I'm like, why can't I go see my movie at Cineplex? It's a 15-minute walk. And the reason I can't see my movie at Cineplex Yonge and Dundas is because a third, sometimes more, of the screens are dedicated to foreign films, and that's where the money is. Cha-ching. So the reason that they have the foreign films is because during the pandemic, when a lot of films were either not being released or they were put right onto streaming, foreign films filled that gap. And because the foreign films filled the gap, a lot of people, from China, India, and Korea, which is where most of the foreign films come from. Foreign films, just to clarify, anything that is being dubbed or something that has a subtitle. So those films create a sense of community for those people. And we have a lot of immigrants in Canada. And Yonge and Dundas Square is basically, downtown, where we have TMU, so Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly known as Ryerson University. At the same time, we also have University of Toronto, and it's an easy place for people to get to. It has Cineplex 10 Dundas. Cineplex has the most screens. There's more screens than Cineplex Varsity. It's close to all the fast food. It's close to the shopping mall, lots and lots of transit. And the people who go there for the foreign films, like I said, have a sense of community with the people who are also going to see those foreign films, and they can talk to their relatives and the friends in the different countries that they came from about those films. So in 2023, foreign films were actually 10% of the box office revenues for Cineplex. And in 2024, between January 1st and September 1st of 2024, the box office revenues for Cineplex were 11.5%. So I'm going to say, because we have like September, October, November, December, those 4 months, I'm going to say that those box office revenues probably were 12% or exceeded 12% of the box office revenues for the foreign films. Now, I'm a little bit curious to see what is going to happen with those numbers, because Cineplex is hoping that they will hit 15% by 2026, 2027, which they probably would have, probably even would have gone beyond those percentages of 15%. However, now that immigration laws have changed and the number of foreign students, the visas have changed, I'm not really sure, because I was watching TV this morning, and on the program called Your Morning on CTV, Anne-Marie Medowick was interviewing an individual whose name I forgot, and I do apologize for that. And he had said that foreign students have decreased by 45%. So if the foreign students have decreased by 45%, I'm curious to see how much the box office revenues for foreign films are going to be. So that's another strategy, is the foreign films. So between the $5 movies on Tuesdays until February 11th, that's the last $5 Tuesday day. And then, of course, we also have the $5 popcorn until February 11th also. So that's 3 more Tuesdays for everyone. I hope you get to go and take advantage of those. I probably will not be able to do that. However, I'm okay. And then having the foreign films as another way of having the revenues coming in. Those are the 2 ways. The third way would be to the algorithms. So one thing that Cineplex does, which Imagine Cinemas does not. So Cineplex does this where they have like an algorithm, and it kind of like decides what movie is going to be on at what time, which is great. Normally, it's not that much of a difference. And I know this because I check the movies every day. So I check both Cineplex that I can walk to, even though the one's 40-minute walk. And I check both the Imagine Cinemas every day. So I can say that if there's, Cineplex Varsity, the one movie I wanted to see was, so it was on at 3:45 one day, 3:40 another day, 3:20 another day. I can handle those variances. Sometimes it varies by an hour. Well, I time block my day, so everything's like mapped out. I don't have a lot of room to move. I don't have a lot of room to move to the point where I have just finished watching Pixels yesterday, which is a very good movie, by the way. And I mentioned it in my Adam Sandler movie. I was on it, however, I didn't see it. And I've actually had that movie. I borrowed it from the library over 2 weeks ago, so it is late. But I just finally watched it yesterday because I don't have a lot of time. Anyway, so because the movie's at Varsity and 10 Dundas, the times change so drastically. Movie that I did want to see, the time changed by, like I said, an hour, and I just threw my hands in the air and just like, okay, whatever. I'm clearly not going to be able to see this movie, and I just bought the book. And because I can rely on a book, I know what I'm doing with the book. I can take a book anywhere that I want to go, and I can read it anywhere. I don't really have to concern myself. I am not the only person who's had a problem with this algorithm. My friend Jerry, who I mentioned in the video I did called Black Christmas, who is watched a lot of movies and has met a lot of famous people in Toronto who've worked in Toronto. I asked him, like, oh, did you go see that movie? He's like, no, they changed the time. I'm like, yes, Cineplex does that a lot. Whereas, once again, Imagine Cinemas does not. So that strategy works for some people. It's clearly not worked for me. However, one strategy that does work for me is when they actually, it doesn't always work, however, it has come in handy a few times, is when Cineplex will have concerts. So I watched the Taylor Swift concert. I went to go see the Pet Shop Boys documentary concert, whatever that was. Don't know. And I did see the documentary on Nickelback, and I love to love them. I don't love to hate them. I love to love Nickelback. So I did see that, and I'm really, really grateful. So it wasn't for those little things, I wouldn't have seen those 3 performances. However, I will say that that other strategy doesn't always work for everybody. And something that we don't do in Canada yet, and I'm wondering if it is going to happen, something they do in France, and the world really is going to the dogs, because now you can take your dog to the movie theater. I'm not making this up. You can Google this. It's a real thing. People have taken their dogs to the movie theater in France, to the Bastille, and they have taken them to see St. Bernard, Lady and the Tramp, that I know of for sure, in November and December of 2024. I think they might have also even taken them to go see 101 Dalmatians. And so the person pays, and the dog goes in for free. And the dogs are literally mesmerized by the dogs on the big screen. And yes, it's a thing. Now, I'm not really sure how I would feel about dogs going to the movie theater and sitting on a seat. I would equate that to probably just sitting on the TTC. I don't always want to sit on the TTC, on the subway or streetcar, because I know who's been sitting on the TTC. So there's that. Uh, would I recommend taking advantage of the $5 movies at Cineplex until February 11th? Yes, I would. I would also recommend taking advantage of the $5 popcorn at Cineplex until February 11th. I would also like to say that you can also watch that video again on Imagine Cinemas. They have $5 Tuesdays, and of course, they also have $5 popcorn. So I hope that this has been enough information for you. I hope that you do go and take advantage of those different things. And I'm really curious to see what else movie theaters are going to do to get us to fill their seats in any way that they can. If you like today's video, please like the video, hit the like button. Of course, you can always leave a comment, and you can always subscribe. Thanks again for watching Anna's Take with a Twist, and that's a wrap.